2022, there was a similar reaction at his next meeting in Twitter. Trump supporters walked into an FBI office with a gun and tried to shoot FBI officers. So and obviously January 6th, we saw ahead of that lots of online rhetoric talking about civil war and talking about calls for violence, and we saw what happened on January 6th. So it's important to acknowledge that it's happening. It's important to monitor it and keep an eye on what's happening, but it's also important to know that these are again very, very early days in this. This is the first 24 hours. The researchers I was working with are updating their report to kind of look at what's happening today and seeing if that's evolving, whether it's getting more intense or whether it's falling off. So again, we'll know more in the coming days about whether this will be sustained. But one of the most interesting things was nearly all of the people or all of the groups and forums that I was monitoring spoke about how if Trump had died, then all rules are off, and that if people would have been, taking up arms and doing whatever they wanted to do.
Jacob, what do we know about what actually fuels assassination attempts specifically, and political violence generally? I mean, we know absolutely nothing so far, or at least that I've heard yet, about the shooter in this incident. But is it ideology? Is it revenge of the sort that David's describing? What do we know about what fuels this kind of violence?
Well, typically assassination attempts are issued or attempted by individuals seeking rapid political change. The term that a lot of people in terrorism scholarship community and the word that a lot of terrorists themselves use is accelerationism. The concept that small acts of violence, isolated acts of violence, can accelerate some much broader conflagration. It's that shot heard around the world notion. The idea that the one individual act of violence can inspire these other acts of violence. Of course, the ultimate model of that is the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in 1914, an isolated assassination, physical assassination, terrorist attack that set off a world war. Now, I don't think this person was trying to set off a world war, but I think if there's a political motive, it's probably somebody who feels that their political ideologies, their personal grievances are not being realized quickly enough, or that former President Trump poses some kind of existential threat to those views. You're right to point out we don't have that ideology. We don't have that motive yet. And I said earlier, we might not get that. It's not unusual that acts of violence like this are driven by very personal factors, right? A desire for revenge, notoriety, a desire for suicide, and an intent to make some kind of splash on the way out. So this is all, whether it's one of those three things, or it's a far left extremist, or if it's a far right extremist, all of it right now is pure speculation. That's really important to note, because the reaction here in the days, weeks, months, years to follow is going to be determined a lot, I think, by what the motive was here, and it's going to be hard to make concrete predictions. It's going to be hard to prepare adequately until we know why this happened and why the security failures were so catastrophic.